There's just something about this book that is giving second book syndrome. There was a lot going on, but I truly just did not care. I'm so distraught. Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. Let's read some more series. This has been probably the longest ongoing series of videos I've ever done on my channel, but I feel like you guys really love these videos. I also really love these videos and definitely still need to whittle down my series list that I'm in the middle of. So I feel like this is productive on all sides. Also, if my eyes are a little bit red right now, I honestly don't know if they are anymore. But I was just very recently crying because I just finished My Friends by Fredrik Backman. Just wrapped that reading vlog up literally 20 seconds ago and decided to turn the camera on again and start the next reading vlog immediately. So what should we start with? That's the question. Oh, I should tell you the number of series I'm in the middle of right now. So let's open my series tracker. Okay, so I'm in the middle of 26 series. This is actually, I think, the lowest that number has ever been since I first started counting the number, which makes sense because we have been working at this for a couple months, so it feels good to see that number going down to confirm that we're actually making progress. As for what we're gonna start with, let's look at my TBR. So options I could start with are Jade City, The Final Gambit. This I actually can't read yet. Heart of the Sun Warrior, A Day of Fallen Night, and these two for the Bone Season series. I also have these two on my June TBR. So I have The Winners by Fredrik Backman and I have the next Daisy Haites book, Daisy Haites The Great Undoing. So this is what we have to choose from right now that's currently on my physical TBR. I'm not gonna do The Winners just yet because, as I mentioned, I literally finished My Friends 15 minutes ago. So emotionally, I'm not going to read two Fredrik Backmans back to back. I feel like that would be too many emotions, more emotions than one person could handle. So we're going to not start with this, but I do want to read this like this week in this video. I just need something in between. That maybe we can read as our third book in this video. Daisy Haites The Great Undoing. I feel like this one's going to be an emotional one too. I think Jessa Hastings has been getting more emotional with like all the books in the series. Like there's just like really deep character emotions. And what was the second Magnolia book that I just read, The Long Way Home? That one had some like gut-wrenching moments. So because of the emotions, we'll also read this one this week because it's on my June TBR. So obviously I need to prioritize books that I've chosen for my June TBR, but maybe this will be like the second book we read this week. And so we need something fun. We need something light and fun. I'm tempted. Okay, my top two that I'm eyeing are either Heart of the Sun Warrior by Lynn because I just read Daughter of the Moon Goddess in May. If I read this, that'll finish off the duology. It's also like quite lighthearted. This is a YA romantasy. It's very fairy tale vibes. It's very florally and fun, and I feel like this could be a nice like kind of more, I don't want to say not deep, because there are still like deep things going on. It's not like a completely shallow read, but it's just like not as like emotionally character driven as like Fredrik Backman books or Jessa Hastings books. So maybe this would be a good option. And the second one I'm eyeing is The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon. This is the, what is it, the third season in the Bone Season series. And I keep saying like I need to read these books faster because there's quite a bit involved in this world, like lots of different characters and just a lot of things to keep track of. And so I always feel like I need to pick these books up sooner rather than later before, you know, the characters and storylines don't feel as fresh in my mind. So I'm trying to decide between these two. In my brain, I want to do The Song Rising because like I need to remember these characters. But on the other hand, I feel like emotionally I'm in the mood for this, and this would also finish a series and get my number down lower. I think I'm gonna do this one. I think we're just gonna finish this duology. Let's just do it. Okay, great talk. Thanks for helping me with that decision. Okay, these are gonna be my three reads this week. I'm gonna start with Heart of the Sun Warrior. We're gonna move to Daisy Haites and then The Winners. Okay, so if you didn't watch my reading vlog or my last monthly wrap up and you don't know what the Daughter of the Moon Goddess is, as I mentioned, it's a very like fairy tale YA romantasy duology, very inspired by Asian folklore. Basic plot synopsis of the first book, we follow Xing Yin. She is an immortal. She is the daughter of the moon goddess and she's been living in exile her entire life. One day her powers flare, she catches the attention of the Celestial Empress, who is not very nice. And because of various reasons, Xingyin is forced on the run. She ends up in the Celestial Kingdom and ends up quite close to the royal family, too close for comfort. The Empress is still like looking for her, but doesn't really know Xingyin's true identity. So that's the main plot. There is also a big love triangle element, and when I was reading the first book, I was very mixed on it. Overall, I really enjoyed the plot of the first book. The plot was actually a lot more intricate than I was expecting, so that was a lovely surprise. I feel like the beginning of the book wasn't that great for me. Like, it felt very convenient, kind of middle grade. It reads quite young. I will say this duology does read quite young overall, but the plot gets exciting after the introduction in the first book. But I'm very torn about the romance and the love triangle. I'm not the biggest fan of that, and that's not because I have something against all love triangles. There have been love triangles that, you know, I like. I just didn't like the way it was done in the first book. But all that to say, I am excited to get into the second book and see how this one reads. I'm wondering if this one will read like as middle grade as the first one, or if it'll start to read a bit older. Hopefully we kind of have our romance settled by now, so the love triangle thing maybe won't be quite as present in this book. Those are my hopes, and I hope we could just focus on the fantasy element of this book, because I feel like that was actually like the strong point in the first book. Let's just start reading this. Okay, I am mixed. I am not loving this. I did read so many pages of this yesterday. I actually have read most of this book. I think I maybe read for around like 3 hours yesterday, but these books are so quick to read. They are YA, and I find that YA generally does go quicker, but also I feel like Su Lintan's writing is just very simple. It's not complex at all. She does describe her whimsical environments very well, but yeah, it's very easy and quick to read. And also, I never know if it's actually like useful or easy to determine font size, like from a camera in a video, but the font is very big. So I read 310 pages yesterday, which is a lot, but while the book is going by very quickly, I'm not absolutely loving it. It's all kind of like similar opinions as to what I felt with the first book. I will say overall at this point, like by this point in the book, I do like the first book better than this one. There are some things that Su Lintan does absolutely wonderfully. I love the world she's created here. I love the way she describes the world. These books feel very atmospheric. The vibe is wonderful. As I mentioned, she just has this very florally descriptive writing that I like and really suits an environment like this, and it's just gorgeous. It's very fairy tale. There's a little bit of whimsy in there as well. Our characters, like our immortals, their preferred method of traveling is like by cloud, so I'm just picturing all these people like standing on like little mini clouds and they're just like whizzing around. So there's like things like that are very fun in this book, and I really do love the world that she's created. And again, I'm very impressed at how much plot she's able to fit into these books, because as I mentioned, the font is very big, so there's not that many words per page, but the amount of plot and action and things that happen is very impressive. And I'm also enjoying the fantasy politics, which I think is definitely one of the strong points here. But where there's a lot of stuff happening in the plot, to me, it all feels very disjointed. And I think the main reason for that is because we don't have one main goal to achieve in this book. With most fantasies, I find you have one main goal. Like, you know your big overarching goal, and that's what will drive your story. And even if you go on like all these little side quests, there's always one main goal. And I feel like for the majority of this book, we didn't have that one main goal. So it just felt like our characters were just doing side task after side task. The goals to look ahead to were like very small and kept changing every chapter, and that's what led to everything feeling very disjointed. And then also, I mentioned before I started this book, I was like, I hope the romance isn't as annoying with the whole love triangle setup. Unfortunately, I feel like with the romance in this book, we still are struggling with the same complaints that I had from the first book. The love triangle is still ever present. It is still very annoying to me, and it reads very young. And overall, there's just something about this book that is giving second book syndrome. And I realize, you know, I know this is the second book in this duology, but usually with duologies, you tend to skip over second book syndrome, because second book syndrome tends to happen in trilogies or longer series where the second book tends to be just kind of a connector book. Because this is a second book in a duology, it's supposed to be the finale. You would not expect it to feel like a second book. And I think that feeling where you feel like you're just going on a bunch of side quests, that is very reminiscent of second book syndrome. So I'm just very confused as to why this is a duology, but it feels like a second book. I'm thinking maybe this would have been better as honestly a standalone. Just leave the first book as it is, wrap up all your plot points, and leave it as one book. So yeah, I don't know. Sad to say, this is not my favorite so far. I will probably finish it today, but I'm not loving it. And I do think I liked the first book better than this one. I'm gonna finish this one today. This one's a tough one for me. This one's a tough one for me because I really wanted to love it. I think the bones are there. I think there's potential. Her writing is good, but it reads so young. So maybe if I read this younger, maybe I would have liked it better. But the plot just like started really boring me, to be honest. By the end of this book, there was a lot going on, but I truly just did not care. I think a lot of the characters felt very one-dimensional. Maybe it's because I also just came from a Fredrik Backman book where the characters are the focus of the book and they're probably like the most deep, rich characters I have ever read. I feel like the characters here felt three emotions. It was either happiness, sadness, or anger, and I just feel like there was no nuance with the emotions. There were some good moments in here. Like there were moments that I was like, ooh, this should make me really emotional. Like I feel like this is a very significant moment, but I didn't feel a thing. And maybe I'm being harsh, but I didn't enjoy this one. Really, I think I'm gonna give it a 2.5 and I feel so bad about that. I always feel bad when I don't enjoy a book and I have to rate it like a negative rating, but I just have to be honest, I didn't love this. I thought it was going to be so up my alley, like this duology in general, and while I did enjoy the first book, I definitely had my issues with it, but overall I did actually quite like the first book. This one just kind of amplified all the things that I didn't like in the first book. So didn't quite work for me, but at least we have completed the duology. So we've made some progress. I am now going to pick up The Great Undoing. I'm very excited for this one. I do love Daisy as a character. I need to see what happens with her and Christian and also Julian. I need to see what our friends are doing in here and what they're up to. Hopefully we're a little more successful with this read. So let's read, okay? I'm 44 pages in. I am really liking this so far. Obviously, like not too much to say yet because I've only just started the book, but I just can't wrap my head around why I like these characters so much more than Magnolia and BJ. I like this side of this world so much better, like miles better. And I don't know, it just breaks my brain a little bit to think of how Jessa Hastings can write a couple that infuriates me so much and then writes these characters that I love so much at the same time. It baffles my mind. But anyways, yeah, Daisy, Christian, Julian, I care deeply for all three of those characters. Do they make dumb mistakes and act stupid a lot of the time? Yes, but for some reason they are just more believable. I think it also, you know what, it probably also has to do with the fact that there are real stakes. Like, yes, there are a lot of deeply emotional things that have happened with Magnolia and BJ, and I understand that now after reading Long Way Home, but I feel like, I don't know, the air of danger that we get with the crime side of things in the Daisy books makes everything feel that much more serious. Like, the stakes are higher. And I feel like now I sound like a horrible person because I know Magnolia especially has gone through so much that was revealed in Long Way Home, and that book definitely made me feel more for her, like on the emotional side of things. You know what, I think it's still like how everyone treats Magnolia, how everyone puts her like on this pedestal and she is like absolute god, where these characters seem to be accepted like more normally from everyone around them. Something I was actually thinking about though, are there like tandem read guides for this series out there? There must be, right? Because the only tandem read I've ever done before in my entire life was the Throne of Glass tandem with Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. But like with reading these books, there's so much that overlaps in the timeline between the Daisy and Magnolia books. Like everything's just happening simultaneously, and I would be so curious to see a tandem read where you're reading things in actual sequential order, but you get like all all the POVs. Like, I think that would be kind of fun. And I feel like that must exist somewhere. Someone out there must have put that guide together. The other thing is I completely forgot that Daisy Haites in her POV, her chapters are written with footnotes. For whatever reason, like no other character in this universe does footnotes, but Daisy does for some reason. And I'm like equal points annoyed at it and equal points entertained by it, because a lot of the footnotes are just kind of like little sarcastic or cheeky add-on that Daisy thinks in her head, like as kind of afterthoughts, and they're entertaining to read. But for me, it just kind of pulls me out of like my flow when I'm reading something, and then I have to pause and like put my finger there to keep my spot and then look at the bottom of the page and read the footnote and come back up. There's something about that action that like blocks me and takes me out of it. Like I just need to keep reading like sequentially. I don't know if that bugs anyone else or if that's just a me problem, but I feel like her sarcastic, quirky little afterthoughts, I like them. They definitely add more to her character and add more of a dimension to her POVs, but maybe they could be inserted as like italic quotes or like, you know, embedded in the text, so you don't have to be like looking up and down constantly while reading her POVs. Oh, you know what? It does make sense for her character because she is in med school. She's a medical student. So that's just where her mindset is. Because yeah, it's like when I see footnotes, I think textbook. Okay. Oh. Fine. I accept it. It makes sense. You've convinced me, Jessa. I will accept the footnotes. There was my rant about nothing. Anyways, I'm gonna continue reading this one. These books are so heavy on the miscommunication trope, and I've constantly said that that is my least favorite trope out there. I mean, I know there's tropes that I dislike more, like bully romance is probably actually my least favorite trope out there, but miscommunication is my least favorite trope out of the tropes that I choose to read. Like I will choose not to read a bully romance, but I will read books with communication either by accident or I don't know, I feel like miscommunication just kind of happens in most books, at least on like a small scale. But Jessa Hastings, like these Magnolia Parks and Daisy Haites books are so high on the miscommunication. I don't know why I don't get as annoyed at it. I feel like maybe it's because we get more of the internal ramblings inside the characters' heads, just more in depth versus other authors that do miscommunication. Like a lot of the time miscommunication is just like mentioned in one sentence, like, oh, I'm not gonna tell him because I just don't want to, or like I'm just scared, and it's like a very generalized reason. But yeah, we get so much more in depth into just like literally the ramblings inside these characters' heads that the miscommunication just like fits in more. But I'm at like 180 pages now, so we're getting more into the meat of the story, and this is definitely just like so much fun than the Magnolia side. Again, I just think the crime aspect of it adds so much more of an interesting plot, where the Magnolia side literally just feels like Gossip Girl, which is very fun in its own way. Like I loved watching Gossip Girl. I have watched every season of that show, every episode of that show multiple times, but I feel like in written format, maybe it just doesn't work so much for me. Similar to how, like I always say, Zodiac Academy, for example, I really don't like the writing in that book. It's hard for me to read a story like that, but I would so totally watch a story like that. Certain vibes just work in different mediums. And for me, the characters on the Daisy side are just like more interesting. I just feel like there is more to like read about. So I just enjoy it so much more. Also, speaking about the tandem read that I kind of mentioned yesterday, there is so much more overlap in this book compared to the first Magnolia and first Daisy book. I feel like with those first two books, a lot of it happened on the same timeline, but they didn't like run into each other as much. And when they did, it was kind of a brief mention. Like they just looked at each other across the room and they were like, oh, she's there with these people. And there wasn't a lot of interaction. But with Long Way Home and The Great Undoing, we're really getting a lot of overlap, where we will get literal full chapters, like full scenes that we are reliving, but from either Daisy, Christian, or Julian's point of view. So we get like all of the same conversation, all of the same action and dialogue, but then we get the inner ramblings from someone else, and then because of that you read the chapter so differently and you get a complete different effect and like message out of that chapter. I'm really enjoying that, and it's just making me so much more curious about a tandem read. I'm enjoying this. I really like our characters. I'm gonna keep going with this one. I'm so distraught. I'm so distraught. What? The ending of that book was just a roller coaster. And I am now I'm so upset that there is no next Daisy book yet. Like, Jessa has yet to write it. And I'm so upset because what the heck? I mean, I know there's like the next Magnolia book, and I'm hoping that I get some answers in that. Like, at least like quick mentions of it from the other POVs. But my hopes aren't too high. Yeah, that took me for a spin. First of all, this is definitely my favorite book in the series. I feel like I'm now like truly coming around to Jessa and her writing and this entire series. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm giving this a 4-star. It could be a 4.25. I'm giving it a 4 for now, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. Daisy, Julian, Christian. I still enjoy reading him as a character, but I feel like Daisy and Julian just outshine everyone in this entire series. They're such like powerful characters and they're so well written. So I was actually talking to Freya the other day and I told her I was reading this book and she was so excited, but she said something really interesting to me and I totally agree with her now after finishing this book. But she said that when she was reading this book, Magnolia really grew on her as a character, because similar to me, I think Magnolia was kind of like a slow start with Freya. Like, she didn't really love her that much at first, but eventually as the series went on, started to get to know her character more, understand her more, and in the end, I think Freya like loves Magnolia now, like after Into the Dark especially. But she mentioned a big part of it is because in this book, you see Daisy and Magnolia's interactions a lot more, and you see Daisy slowly warm up to Magnolia. So as a reader, seeing Daisy go from hating Magnolia to like warming up to her and like eventually liking her in the end, you go along on that ride with Daisy as a reader, and then you like understand it as well. It really just goes to show like the power of writing and how so many of these scenes, like so many moments, as I mentioned in this book, were the same moments we had in Long Way Home, but we're getting them from another perspective. So we got all these different takeaways from those moments, and seeing Magnolia, especially in all of those scenes now from like Julian's point of view, or Daisy's point of view, or Christian's point of view, she really seemed very different in this book. Even though she was like saying the same things that she did in Long Way Home, doing the same things, I just now have seen her from someone else's point of view, outside of her own like toxic mindset about herself. It really makes a difference, because like I don't think Magnolia really like loves herself that much in the first 2 books, and so you're in her own toxic headspace about herself, and then that's why she seems like, you know, she kind of sucks. But now seeing her from other characters' POVs, she seems clever, she seems like a girl's girl, she seems funny. Complete change in like my perception of her now, and really hats off to Jessa for that, because I feel like as an author, like that is difficult to do well, and Jessa did a really great job at that. So that was wonderful. That being said, I'm a little emotionally tired from the end of that book. So I think I'm going to take a few hours outside of reading, and I'll probably start my next read like tonight in bed. Where is my next book? My books are kind of all over the place right now, because if you didn't notice what is going on behind me. So yeah, I did get new bookshelves. I am in the midst of reorganizing them. A reorganization video is going to be coming soon. Please don't mind the state of my bookshelves. Everything's just kind of everywhere, but I do need to find my next read. Found it. This is gonna be another wild ride, but this is The Winners by Fredrik Backman. I feel like I don't need to introduce this. You have been on this journey with me over the past few months reading through this series. We're diving into the conclusion. A lot of you have said this is the one that really truly breaks you, and that makes me so scared because the first 2 books have already broken me. This book is also absolutely massive, so just slightly intimidating. But I love Fredrik Backman's writing. I'm really excited to get into this. We'll do that in bed tonight. I'll update you tomorrow how the beginning of this book goes, but see you later. So yeah, I may have completely lied to you, and I haven't talked to you guys in a few days, but I am slowly but surely making my way through the winners. When I tell you guys, this is such a thick book. It is so much thicker than the previous ones. I think I showed this to you before, but just for example, okay? Look at Us Against You. You know, regular sized book, and look at the winners behind it. It's like, hold on. Look how much more massive it is, like both in the width and just like the overall size of the book. I don't know why it's this big. Obviously, you know, the book is just like longer no matter which edition you get, but this edition I got is like, it's just so big. I don't know what I did when I bought this, but my copy is I think like 670 pages long, and I am just about halfway through. I've been reading it over the past 2 days. I think it's 2 days later. It's so far going slow, but I expected it because every other Beartown book has gone slow in the beginning. Beartown especially, I feel like Us Against You was a little bit quicker in like getting back into it, but the winners, like this is a long book, and I think like Fredrik Backman is just taking his time. This might be the slowest out of the bunch, but I am trusting the process because obviously I've read the other 2 books in the series, and I know Fredrik Backman, you know, there's a reason that he is giving you all of this information, and there's a reason you are going along with these characters through these like slower moments, and it'll all come together. I trust Fredrik Backman so much. Every single book I've read from him has been a 5-star, so trusting the process. Obviously, I love all the other books in the series as well, but I will say the beginning is very, very slow. So we start off, I think I took like a little phone clip when I started reading in bed like 2 days ago. The very first chapter mentions my favorite character in the series, and it just gave me this feeling of dread. I was like, oh no, like it scared me so much just in the way that Fredrik Backman opened that first chapter. So scared. And then we get into, you know, all the POVs. Similar to all the other books in the series, there are many, many POVs in this book. Some of them, we've been following them throughout the entire journey. So like we're very familiar with them. They are characters that we really, really love and feel close to at this point. But we do have some new characters introduced that we're following. And then there are also other like background characters that are coming more to the forefront. So we're getting more of them as well. So a big mix of like old characters and new characters. And I'm really finding that like I care so deeply about the characters we've been following throughout, like since the first book, that when we flip to the POV of someone who's new or someone who like used to be in the background and is now coming to the forefront, I'm just like, I'm not like I don't care about this person, because I do still think every character is so interesting in their own way, but it's more just like, oh my god, can we get back to like the character that I care about more, because I'm just so concerned for them and I need to know like where they're gonna end up at the end of this entire book. So it's more of that. It's not like, oh, I'm so bored at the other character POVs. It's more just like I'm so intensely into certain POVs that the other ones are like they feel like they're boring maybe, but they're not. They're just boring in comparison because I'm so anxious for like these certain few characters. But yeah, because we flip so much with the POVs, the story goes by quite slow because we're reliving the same moment through like 10 different people. But I think around page 240, which is quite far into the book, is when I feel like the plot really started to thicken and started to like move. So I think we're getting into like the meat of the book now. I'm trying my best to go through this book like slow, like take my time with it, give myself time to like digest it all, because I know this book is going to impact me so deeply and I know I'm going to be so sad when I'm done with these characters. But there's kind of this internal conflict where on one hand I'm like, I want to know what happens to these characters. I want to know like how it all ends, that I like want to speed through this book. But then at the same time, I'm like, I know I'm going to be so sad when it's over. So a few conflicting things within me, but I think I am doing a good job at taking my time. That being said, I have the entire day to read today. And I think I have like, what, 340-ish pages remaining. So there's a good chance that I could finish this book today just because I have nothing else to do other than like laundry and a few chores. Like, I'm just reading today. The other thing is, I find myself comparing this book to My Friends because obviously, as I mentioned, My Friends I read 2 books ago, and so it's the most fresh Fredrik Backman in my mind. And I knew this book was darker. Like, all of his books have serious elements in them, but I feel like something like My Friends had more of a lighter mood. Like, yes, there were a lot of serious elements. You know, the book was filled with all kinds of trauma and real life issues and all of that. But that one had so much more humor and lightness mixed in within it and like quirkiness, more similar to A Man Called Ove, where like it's just a little bit more lighthearted. Like, there are more jokes being cracked. Like, we're kind of poking fun at certain things while we're going on this very serious journey. But in Beartown, there's not a lot of humor. Like, there's a little bit, like there are certain moments that will kind of lift you out of your depths and make you laugh a little bit. For the most part, this trilogy in general has a more serious undertone and definitely feels a lot darker and just like more serious overall. So it is interesting reading 2 of his books so close together, like almost back to back with just 2 books in between them, and just noticing the very different vibes within them. But all that to say, this is moving slow, but I am like enjoying the process. I'm gonna keep reading. Oh, my air conditioning is on right now and it's very loud, so I apologize if you can hear it, but I just read this really like gruesome, horrific moment that I don't think I have read in any other Fredrik Backman book. Like, it what? I'm so disturbed. I'm laughing, but it's like a coping mechanism. You know what I mean? Like, I am so disturbed right now. That was so gruesome. I did not know that this book would take a turn in that direction, but we just went there. I was kind of dreading it happening because I could see him leading to that, but holy heck. I'm still reading, obviously, still got a ways to go, but that was just really surprising to me, and I'm kind of in disbelief, but I'm gonna keep reading. I've just been sitting here for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, just processing the end of that book. I don't even know what I feel like. I was just saying this morning to you guys that like something like My Friends or something like A Man Called Ove, which are the 2 non-Beartown books that I've read so far from Fredrik Backman, those 2 books make you feel uplifted at the end of it. Like, yes, you've just been through all of these, like you feel like you've been through all of these emotions and all of these traumatic things that have happened, but he always like ends his books making you feel hopeful and optimistic, and there's always like something positive to grasp onto. Like, I don't think Fredrik Backman means for his books to just be like negative, sad, but his Beartown books definitely leave you more sad than his other books too. I think especially this last one, there was still like a little like tie-in at the end that was like, but this is the future, like look at what we've learned now. But oh man, I'm so sad. I mean, what can I say? It's a 5-star. I feel like that 3rd book really took a lot out of me to read though. Like, not only was it very long, but there was a lot involved. It was like, as I mentioned, very slow moving. You know, you get so deep into it. So like, what is that TikTok thing? Is it ever really that serious? And then they show you like the thickness of a book. Like, yes, I would say in the case of this entire Beartown trilogy, it is that serious. At points in in it, I was like, why are we learning all of this? But like, it's all part of the town, right? It's all part of Beartown. Everything that happens is important. Everything that happens is connected. And I need something to cheer me up. This third book was the most political out of all of them. The entire Beartown trilogy is, to its core, a very political series. Whether or not you're talking about like the town politics, the local politics, or just like overall things that are happening in the world. It's a very political series, but I think like it kind of like all built towards this third book, which was, I think, the most political. All these characters, the friendships. I know I'm sad right now, but like the friendships that Fredrik Backman creates are the most beautiful friendships. Like he truly is the best at pairing two people together that you'd be like, there's no way these two characters would ever be friends. And somehow he convinces you and he makes these two characters friends, and it's so believable and it hits like so deep in your heart and you feel so connected to these two people as friends together. There's so much of that in all of his books, and this book is no exception. That was really wonderfully done. I have no other thoughts right now because I'm a mess. Needless to say, that was a very good book. It's one of those books where, like, I don't know if I'd recommend it to everyone just because it does get very dark. It does get very triggering. Everyone has, you know, their different triggers and the levels of things that they can deal with in books. Just be aware if you're thinking of getting into the Beartown books. I need to, like, maybe read something happy or just read, like, fantasy or something to, like, get my head out of the world. I don't know what to do next. Let's go and update our series tracker, I guess. Okay, here we are. Let's do this. Can you tell that my brain is just like processing right now? I can't even talk. But what did we read this week? Daisy Haites. So the next book to read in this is the Last Magnolia book, Into the Dark. 5 books available, read 4. My emotions, my heart, oh my god. What else? The Celestial Kingdom. I finished Heart of the Sun Warrior. There's nothing remaining to read. I read 2 out of 2 books and we are finished with that one. And third, the ordeal that we just went through with the winners. Done that. I've read 3 out of 3 and we are indeed finished. So I'm a very sad girl right now, but we have a little something to celebrate because our series count is now down to 24. I have nothing left to say to you. I'm going to take the rest of the day off. I'm just gonna like rest. Maybe I'll like watch something. Maybe I'll just watch like 10 episodes of the Gilmore Girls to cheer me up. There we have it. That's it for now. We ended up finishing 2 series this week and continuing 1 other. So good progress made. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys here for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know the one series you're currently reading that you're the most excited to continue. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.